Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to my E3 2021 impressions. Another year, another E3. Usually, I would be at E3 in some physical capacity, either at the convention itself or visiting the press conferences, which I usually prefer to do, but obviously with COVID going on, last year E3 was canceled, and again, this year E3 is still canceled, technically changed to a digital-only event, but the main convention, the main press conferences are kind of still happening just through, the internet only. There's no attendance of any kind anywhere. So it kind of sucks, I'm hoping that really next year we could kind of go back to more of the standard stuff at E3, whether it's just a convention or if they're just going to keep it digital, at least the press conferences, because those were always fun to attend, and always enjoyed going to those. So we'll have to see how it is next year, but I wanted to give you guys my thoughts sort of on the things that I was interested in, at least from the press conferences that did happen, as well as sort of the E3 that's going on, dubbed the Summer Gaming Fest. So that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to go over in detail about only the stuff that I found interest in. I don't want to kind of retouch on everything because not everything that they talked about is of interest to me, and we would be here for over an hour if that was the case. So I'm going to try and make this as concise, but you know me. So to start off, let's talk about the Summer Games Festival. This is being led by Jeff Keighley, who's usually in charge of the Game Awards, which I do hope actually happens at the end of this year. I'm hoping that the Game Awards actually allows people to attend. That would be pretty cool. But that being said, so he's leading the charge here, and basically it's being extended across over a period of a couple months. So now E3 is a much longer event. And there was a few announcements that he sort of kicked off the coverage for E3 with last week on Thursday. And so I'm just going to go over a handful of stuff here in this list because there were some actual surprise announcements and stuff that is really exciting to hear and know about. So Jurassic World Evolution was, for me, a big sleeper hit back in 2019 when the game came out, I believe. And, I was really surprised. I grew up playing the Roller Coaster Tycoon games, and so having a game set in the Jurassic Park universe where you essentially build your own Jurassic Park, it's such a brilliant concept, and thankfully they executed it perfectly in Evolution. So it's getting a full-on sequel. We're now going to have sort of sea creatures and stuff that you can add to the parks now, which is actually really cool. And it's coming out this year for the new-gen consoles as well as the old, and of course PC. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm probably going to be picking this game up on either the PS5 or the Series X, which is going to be interesting because those are usually the type of games where they are much better using a mouse and keyboard just because of the type of game it is, and you're kind of looking at it from a top-down perspective. So I wonder how it's going to translate over to gamepad. If any of you who played it on console want to let me know how the experience is, I would appreciate that. But I'm very excited for it. It was kind of a surprise. I wasn't honestly expecting a sequel to Jurassic World Evolution, but I guess the game did well enough, and to see it actually getting a full-blown sequel here for the new-gen consoles as well, I'm really hoping that they're just going to up the graphics a lot, because Jurassic World Evolution was a pretty game, especially on PC. If you pumped up the settings and stuff, there was a lot of detail. So it's a game I sunk like almost 40 hours into. I was really surprised just how much it caught me. I think it was like nostalgia not having a game like that for very long, but I'm looking forward to that. That looks really cool. So after that, we also got an announcement for a rumor that we've actually been hearing for a couple months now, and that is Death Stranding. It is not only getting a PlayStation 5 upgrade, it's getting a director's cut, which is going to expand the story and introduce new scenes as well. So essentially, this is more or less a glorified DLC kind of injected into the game. I would think it's very comparable to like the newly released Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. So the idea is that if you missed it on PS4, you're going to be getting a PlayStation 5 version of the game, probably with slightly upgraded graphics, although even the PC version maxed out is very comparable to what we got on PS4 Pro at least. But the trailer was 60 FPS, which is pretty cool, and, I love Death Stranding. I thought it was one of the most incredible games, I've played ever, and one of the strongest narratives I played in a video game. So, if push comes to shove, and I don't know if we're going to be able to just play the extra content on its own, or they're going to make you play through the entire game and it's sort of interwoven into the new experience now, but I would gladly go through that whole game again to actually experience what the new content and expanded storylines are going to be. It's going to be pretty fun, and to have that game on PS5 now, 60 FPS, and I assume they're going to integrate the haptics into that. It might be a really cool, addition to basically that Death Stranding experience on PS4, which was already phenomenal. So I'm looking to get the game just because I absolutely loved it to death. But if you missed it on PS4, that's great news, because if you were somewhat interested in it, now you can play it on PS5 with the new graphics and stuff. We're going to hear more information in the coming weeks. Apparently, Sony's going to have another State of Play session, and that's going to kind of be their E3 announcement and stuff like that. So we're gonna have to wait and see more details on that, but pretty exciting for me, and I'm looking forward to that. Alright, we also got a console release announcement for Shadow Warrior 3. Previously a PC-only game that we knew of. Now we know fully that it's going to be coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which leads me to believe that although the games will be playable on the new gen systems, they're not going to be like fully taken advantage of. I am hoping that at the very least the game is enhanced somewhat with at least higher frame rate options, or maybe just better graphics or so. I don't know. But we're getting the game on the consoles, which is pretty exciting. Now, I played Shadow Warrior 1 and 2, the remakes of the last generation. And if you haven't played them, it's basically like Doom, but more comedic, more satire, more silly. But it's that same type of like intense, pulse-pounding gameplay, really fast-paced arena shooter. So it was actually really fantastic. I loved both games. So I'm looking forward to this third one. That's by Devolver Digital, actually. So it's gonna be pretty cool to see that come out for the. Hopefully, we will get a new gen update for the consoles on that game. But we're gonna have to wait and see. At least it's coming to the consoles at least some point. Alright, and to round it off, the last announcement we got during the Summer Games Fest was Elden Ring. We got a release announcement as well as a gameplay trailer. For the first time we got to see how the gameplay looked. And honestly, it's very Souls-esque, right? Pretty much what you're expecting if you're a fan of the Souls game, but it's actually coming out January of next year, which is making it basically the first major release of 2022, which is crazy to think that we're almost, at that point. But it's coming quick. I looked at the gameplay, and it kind of looks like Souls, but more open, more of an open world type feel to it. I've always enjoyed From Software's games, ever since I played Bloodborne, which is really the first one. I got into their games kind of late in the process, but I played Bloodborne, played Dark Souls 3, played Sekiro, and I loved all of them. So, I'm probably going to really enjoy this one. This is nice that it's going to be in a new universe this time around. It's a brand new, brand new IP, really. So I'm just really hoping that the gameplay is as unique for that game, because what would really suck is if they kind of just do the copy and paste thing from Dark Souls. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do that. Usually their games all have some type of twist on terms of the gameplay front. So I'm sure this one's going to be a very similar situation. But it's coming out in January 2022, which is actually really exciting and a great way to start off 2022, if you ask me. Alright, so that basically sums up the Summer Games Festival. I want to move on to the actual press conferences this time around, and let's start with Ubisoft, their E3 media briefing. So Ubisoft decided to have their conference at noon, my time, Pacific Standard Time, and I was actually at lunch while this was going on, but I got it on my phone. I was watching it on my phone, so I was actually, watching the conference as it was happening. I was just out and about doing stuff. I honestly feel that Ubisoft had the weakest conference of everyone. Not only did they not show a lot of the stuff that I think people were expecting them to show, there wasn't really anything dramatic or crazy. They had one bombshell announcement, which I'll get to in a little bit, but most of what we saw from Ubisoft was pretty much everything we already knew about. And then the stuff we haven't heard about in a very long time, like Beyond Good and Evil 2, or even a new Splinter Cell game, nothing. So it's a bit frustrating, but let's get into the stuff that they at least did show. Rainbow Six Extraction, previously called Quarantine, is now getting a release. Now, I was actually hoping that, although this looks like a copy and paste of Rainbow Six Siege with except aliens now, or some type of mutation enemies or something like that, I was hoping that we were going to get a traditional single-player campaign and stuff like that. And honestly, they showed the multiplayer co-op aspect of it. It kind of looks like DLC for Siege, which is very off-putting to me because, I know a lot of people like Rainbow Six Siege, but Siege, just like the newer Ghost Recon games, are like just a hollow shell of what the original games were. It's a completely different game, And without a single player to really draw me in there, I'm not going to sit there and really engage in the multiplayer, especially now with the type of hardcore fan base that is on there. It's not really as welcoming to new players. I don't know if Extraction has a single player campaign. If Extraction has a single player campaign, I will try the game out. But if it doesn't, this is one I'm going to skip. So if any of you guys are actually up to date on what Extraction/Quarantine is it a full-blown new Rainbow Six game? Is it like an expansion of Siege? Does it have a single-player storyline? Those are just type of things I want to learn. Because when I look up information, it's very finicky. There is mention of some type of campaign, but I don't know if it's a real campaign with a story and characters, or if it's like Siege where you just have missions that you kind of play through and it's kind of an arcade mode. So you guys are going to have to let me know who are kind of looking more into the game, whether that is something that is appropriate for me to kind of check out, or whether I'm going to have to pass on it like I did with Siege. So not much there. We also got an additional trailer for Far Cry 6. Now, I think Far Cry 6 looks a lot of fun. It is, they're going with that more type of crazy, bombastic type of style of gameplay, but it looks like a good time. I like the setting as well, the Cuban setting. It looks really cool, so I'm probably going to have a good time with that game. That game's coming out in October, by the way, so actually fairly soon, and it's going to be 60 frames per second on the new consoles, which is going to be really, really nice. But we got some additional, I guess we got really a trailer talking more about the villain and the characters and stuff like that. So it has potential, but I am looking forward to Far Cry 6. It does look like a lot of fun. So they ended their press conference, Ubisoft, with a bombshell announcement that I mentioned earlier, and that announcement is that James Cameron's Avatar, the game, is actually coming back, but it's not like that crappy kind of third-person movie tie-in game that came out on the 360 and PS3. This is a full-blown open world role-playing game in first person where you're playing as the Na'vi. Now, I think this universe has incredible potential for something like this, and we saw still images of the game. It's running on the Snowdrop engine, which is the same engine powering the Division, so it's going to be a very graphically intensive game. It's for the new gen consoles only, by the way, and PC, of course. So this is a full-blown, next gen / current gen. I guess we have to start calling it current gen now. It's a current gen only developed title. And the graphics, at least from the trailer, it's game engine footage, but if it's even indicative or close to how the game really looks, oh my god, this could be something really, really cool. And I'm hoping that they're going to have stuff like dialogue options. I'm really hoping that it's going to be a full-scale RPG and not just kind of Far Cry, but you're playing as the Na'vi and it's like in this more fantasy environment. I'm hoping that it's not like that, because Ubisoft has a tendency to copy and paste formulas from Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and inject them into all their games, and this is what ruins things like Ghost Recon. Ghost Recon has the same map system as like Assassin's Creed, and it's like you feel like you're playing the same game just with a different skin. This is really, this has incredible potential, but it is being led by Ubisoft, so it also causes, some concern exactly how this game is going to come out. I am going to be optimistic here and allow myself to be excited over this, because this is pretty cool. Obviously we haven't had an Avatar 2, and James Cameron's currently working on not only the sequel, but there's 3 or 4 other movies that he's also working on in parallel with this sequel. I mean, I have no idea what's going on with the films, right? The release schedule is all over the place. But this could be really, really, really cool if executed properly. And I'm really hoping they do it, because, again, the potential for this universe is pretty great. So, we're going to have to wait and see. It's called Avatar Frontier Pandora or something. What's the title? It's called Frontiers of Pandora is what it's called. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Open world RPG, first person, playing as the Na'vi. Lots of potential. I hope they do it justice. And that was it for Ubisoft. They had nothing basically besides Avatar that was really worth talking about. An absence of Beyond Good and Evil 2, and no Splinter Cell. So for me, it was obviously the weakest press conference of the bunch. I mean, there wasn't really anything new there besides Avatar, that people were really kind of looking into. So I don't know. We had a few sports games announcement as well that I'm trying to remember. So, but it was mostly a very boring, lackluster conference, at least in my opinion. So that was followed by the next day, which was the Xbox and Bethesda E3 briefing. So now Microsoft owns Bethesda. We no longer have a Bethesda briefing separately from Microsoft. It's now one large press conference. Now, I'll be honest, when I woke up, I woke up and I watched the press conference from bed because it was like 10 a.m. when it started, right? So I was relaxing in bed watching it. And at the end, I was tweeting my thoughts, and I was a bit pessimistic about the whole thing. I said it was kind of meh, and that, it was just okay, the press conference. I think I was being a little too harsh on second thought, and after thinking about it and kind of looking at sort of their lineup, I do think Microsoft had a really strong E3 showing this year. And honestly, what they did this year was not only add value to Xbox Game Pass, which is substantial now. It's almost becoming hard to justify anything else, at least from a logical standpoint. But, if you don't have an Xbox, you're probably looking at this conference saying, I kind of want an Xbox now. It was one of those press conferences. Microsoft always kind of does. They talk a high game, right? But usually most of their conferences are comprised of third-party reveals. But now that Microsoft owns Bethesda and a bunch of these other studios, a lot of what we saw not only was exclusive to Xbox, it's coming to Xbox Game Pass. So it's like the value there is tremendous, and it's probably one of the best deals you can get in gaming. I don't think there's a single service that probably offers more value than Game Pass at this point, which you gotta give a round of applause to Microsoft for. I mean, it's like I said, from a logical perspective, it's becoming hard to justify anything else. So they had a lot of stuff. It was an hour-and-a-half press conference. I want to kind of go into it, and again, I'm going to talk about only the things that I found interest in, okay? So they opened the press conference with a big one. Starfield, a release date for November of 2022, so another year-and-a-half wait, but we got our first actual trailer for Starfield, which all we got was teasers. It was game engine footage, which could mean anything technically, but we didn't get to see actual core gameplay of it, but it was kind of setting up the world and the atmosphere around it. It was a quick trailer, but yeah, November 2022, the big bombshell though, and they confirmed this in the press conference. They wanted to make it absolutely clear. It is Xbox exclusive. This is a massive blow to PlayStation, in all honesty, because some people were kind of speculating, and Microsoft they weren't being so straightforward with their communication. Some people were like, oh, well, it might still come to PlayStation down the line. Microsoft said no. After the trailer, they literally repeated, said, yes, it's exclusive. They said it directly in the camera. So this is coming exclusively to Windows PCs and Xbox, and it's day one on Game Pass. With a game like Starfield, keep in mind, this is the first new IP from Bethesda Game Studios in like 20-something years, from the guys behind Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls, and the Fallout series. This is like their first brand new IP. This is huge, and by it not coming to PlayStation, I mean, this is a massive game. I was talking to a few friends of mine, and I was like, this is a hard choice: God of War or Starfield, and the Elder Scrolls 6 probably. If you're choosing between both platforms, that's a hard choice. That is really a hard choice. And yeah, some people may prefer, again, the more action-heavy type of style of God of War versus something more RPG-driven and open world like Fallout and those type of styles of games, but those are massive, massive IPs. And it's absolutely nuts. And honestly, obviously I own both systems, so it doesn't really affect me, but you really got to give it to Microsoft. They were at a point where they had almost nothing to really entice people in. I was kind of wanting to mention that, during my thoughts on the 8th generation of consoles, that if you didn't own an Xbox One, you didn't really miss out on much when you really kind of think about it. There wasn't any drop dead, like, bombshell, incredible, exclusive game that just, like, was far and beyond anything we've ever seen before. It was more of the same, and a lot of those exclusives still ended up coming down to PlayStation months, years later, you know? So now we're starting off this generation, and Microsoft, in its second year of the series consoles, is getting a full-blown RPG from Bethesda as an exclusive. So this is massive. And it continued, like the exclusive news, I have a list here on my phone. It continues. There's so much, like, just value here. And not only all this stuff, but it's all part of Game Pass. So if you own Game Pass, you get this essentially on day one. You get, like, all these games. So that was a big one for me, and I'm looking forward to Starfield. Obviously, it's a Bethesda game, and I like all their games, and this is going to be pretty cool. I'm hoping that they really refine their engine, because that's one thing that could really kind of kill this game, is just the bugs and the quality-esque of Bethesda RPGs, because those are always hit or miss. So this was kind of followed up, after Starfield, for me, this was kind of followed up by Stalker 2. We got a gameplay trailer for this. Now, I haven't played the first Stalker, but I know of this series. I don't know enough about this sequel, though, and I was kind of reading into it a little bit. So this was apparently canceled at one point during the PlayStation 3 and 360 era. We were supposed to be getting a sequel that was in development, and it was canceled. And now it's been resurrected all these years later. It's in development for the new gen consoles only. Well, really, actually, it's in development for Xbox consoles as well as Windows PC. This is another exclusive, by the way, for Microsoft. The gameplay trailer was incredible to me. It looked like Metro. It looked like a style of Metro, but a little bit more... I mean, Metro has some kind of sci-fi, kind of fantasy-oriented stuff, but and some weird things. I don't know. It just looked really cool, right? It definitely looked like something I wanted to play, but I don't know, because I kind of hear two conflicting things on it. I hear it's kind of a co-op focused game with some multiplayer, but then I also hear that there's a single-player portion. This is one where I kind of need you guys to kind of help me out. Like, Is Stalker 2 going to have a single-player campaign, at least on the level or quality of something like Metro? Because if it is, I mean, what I saw was just fantastic. It looks amazing, especially the visuals alone looked immaculate. This is clearly a next-generation game, you know, at its core. So I'm just really hoping that, you know, it does have a single-player campaign, because this is something that I actually really want to check out and I'm really interested in. You know, now that the Metro series is kind of over, you know, Last Light was kind of ending the Artyom, at least, arc. I don't know if there are going to be more Metro games, but at least the story that they're telling is over. This might actually help quench my thirst for another type of Metro game, and it hasn't really been that long since, you know, Exodus. So we're going to have to see how that is. But yeah, let me know if it has a single-player campaign, because I honestly don't know so much about it. And like I said, when I look up information, some people mention multiplayer and co-op and stuff, so I just really am kind of curious. So after that, we've got actual gameplay, a gameplay trailer for Battlefield 2042. Now, I haven't talked about this, and if you don't follow me on Twitter, you probably don't know my thoughts on it. Battlefield 2042 looks awesome. 2042 looks awesome. But, you know, I am disappointed of the lack of a single-player campaign. You know, for me, it's like, first of all, let's be honest here. DICE has always suffered when it came to narratives in every game that they've ever made, you know? Even like Mirror's Edge has really crappy narrative. Battlefront, the original Battlefront, didn't even have a narrative, and Battlefront 2's narrative was really kind of forgetful, you know? And none of the Battlefield games, not a lot of people bring up Bad Company. People like Bad Company because it's satire and comedic. It's not actually a good narrative as much as it is just funny characters and the shit that goes on that you just kind of connect with. So DICE is kind of looking at this, and they said, instead of actually doing what they honestly should have done, which is like, all right, let's go back to the drawing board and let's actually try to put some effort into here, they're giving up. They're just saying, fuck it, screw a campaign. At the same time, I'll be honest with you. I don't buy Battlefield for the campaign as much as I do the multiplayer, and I really, really miss Battlefield multiplayer. I mean, we haven't had like a really good Battlefield game, especially a modern one of that scale, since Battlefield 4, and at launch, that game was kind of meh, you know, got much better over time. So I think DICE really kind of, bunkering down and really focusing on at least the multiplayer for this and really expanding on the multiplayer. Hopefully the quality is there, but I just wish that we got a full complete package, because when Battlefield 3 launched, we got a full campaign. No, it wasn't anything special. Yes, it was rather dull and boring, but we got a single-player campaign. We got a full co-op campaign and co-op missions as well in Battlefield 3, and then we got the full-scale multiplayer at Battlefield 3. It was like this full, complete package. And so now we have Battlefield 2042 on the new-gen systems, and all we have is multiplayer, and that's it. And these new multiplayer modes, So, again, the gameplay looked awesome. I'll probably end up getting it just because I miss Battlefield, and that's the truth. I miss Battlefield. I miss a very good Battlefield game, playing it. And we've just been handed, I enjoyed Battlefield 1, but Battlefield 5 was just, really lackluster. I know the game's gotten better over time, but it's just, I don't care about it as much. I wanted like a modern Battlefield game, and we haven't had that for a very long time. So I'm really hoping that Battlefield 2042 is really awesome, and I will probably end up checking it out. They're probably going to have a beta, I would assume, but we'll have to wait and see. Alright, continuing, 12 Minutes. This is the Xbox exclusive indie game where it's literally stuck in a time loop. Every 12 minutes the game resets, and some hitman comes in. It looks really, really cool. Some of you guys may remember the trailer from E3 2019, actually. It's been in development for a very, very long time, and it actually has a lot of like well-known actors behind it. James McAvoy, Willem Dafoe, and what's her name? Who plays what's her name in Star Wars? I'm blanking out here. Some of you guys know who I'm talking about. But anyway, it's got a lot of well-known actors in it. It looks really awesome. It's getting a release date, and it's coming out in August. So very soon. I'm really looking forward to that. It just looked fantastic. I mean, the trailers that they showed, they always kind of leave you shocked. It's like such suspense. And this could be a really, really cool game, a really cool concept, and I'm interested to see how it actually plays out. So that's coming out in August, and excited to get finally a release date for that after all these years. Alright, so after that, we got our Halo Infinite news. They did focus more on the multiplayer, as we were kind of expecting this time around. So we got a multiplayer reveal trailer, and I gotta say, it looks pretty fun. I was a little bit concerned, kind of seeing what they were going to take the direction of Halo Infinite was in terms of the multiplayer. Because, Halo 5's direction, I had fun with Halo 4 and Halo 5's multiplayer. I actually enjoyed what 343 has done with the multiplayer for Halo games. But Halo 5's multiplayer was a little bit more toxic, where they have these requisition packs and microtransactions out the fucking ass. And Infinite looks like it's going way back to its like sort of origins and its roots. They actually have leadership from people who actually worked on the original Halo Combat Evolved, actually helping out with this game and really kind of leading the charge for development here. I gotta be honest, it looks fun. I was actually really surprised though we did not get a release date for Halo Infinite. I was really expecting they were gonna be like, all right, it comes out November or it comes out December. We're gonna get a hard date. We got no date on Halo Infinite, except they just said holiday 2021. So after a full year of it being delayed, hopefully the quality's there, but basically what I saw of the multiplayer was a lot of fun, and I'm actually hoping for a beta or something at least to play before the actual game comes out. But I was actually really happy with what they showed with Halo Infinite. Again, it looks back to basics. The campaign itself, just speaking about 343, they're really... It just has a different vibe, I feel like 343 has done a really shitty job on the storylines for the Halo games, at least picking up where Bungie left off. It's just been really crappy, although, again, I've had fun with their multiplayers. So I am hoping that, this is exactly what I wanted them to do as well. I wanted them to take a long hiatus and really kind of go back to the drawing board and change up a lot of things. And it looks like they're doing that. So I'm really hoping Halo Infinite is just transformative. It's really a lot of fun, but the trailer for the multiplayer, at least, it looks like a good time. So I'm hoping to actually have a beta or something like that. And again, no release date though. That was really surprising. Alright, this next one was actually a giant surprise for me, and I'm actually very excited about it. A Plague Tale is getting a sequel called A Plague Tale Requiem. This game, which I played on PC, by the way, A Plague Tale Innocence, was a huge sleeper hit for me back when it came out in 2019. It was really surprised by just how awesome it was. And I was looking forward to the game prior to it coming out, but it has a really good storyline. It was a really good game. So the fact that they're making a sequel, I'm just really thankful of. So it is coming to Game Pass, I believe, and it's not an exclusive though. This should be a cross-platform game, I believe at least. So, but it is pretty exciting to see a sequel for this. Again, very happy that it's actually getting a sequel. But it was something I just wasn't completely expecting. So, I'm just very excited for it, and to play it on the new consoles with the enhanced graphics, because it looked really good on PC. Especially when I played on the PC, it looks good on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One as well. But it looked really good on PC. So I'm expecting that the graphics are probably going to be really just incredible. But it's a fun game. It's an amazing game actually from a narrative standpoint, and it's just done a really good job. So yeah, really excited for that, and surprised. It was a nice surprise during the Microsoft conference. All right, we also got a official kind of non-announcement, but just I guess confirmation. Atomic Heart is going to be coming to Xbox. This is kind of a BioShock-esque inspired Russian first-person shooter where you're kind of going through the Soviet. It's like the Soviet-Russian type of old style, but it's like retro sci-fi almost. It looks really cool. It's more horror-esque, and it kind of takes inspiration from the BioShock series, which I really like. So, previously I think this was only coming out for PC. Now we got confirmation it's coming out for Xbox exclusively, I believe, in terms of the consoles. So that's pretty exciting, and it's coming to Game Pass as well. So yeah, Atomic Heart, I'm really looking forward to it. Unfortunately, we did not get a release date, though. I was really expecting they were going to say, here's a release date for the game, but they didn't mention it one bit. So that is another one where we're kind of just, for me, it was kind of a non-announcement almost. It was like, oh yeah, it exists. Oh, I guess it's coming to Xbox. Great. I thought it was always coming to Xbox, but I guess not. All right, we're not done. They had a lot of stuff. A brand new 2.5D pixel art game called Replaced was announced. This is by a new studio. I thought previously this was by the guys who did The Last Night, which was a canceled 2.5 pixel art game, which looked really cool. But I actually found some cool information. Not only is this game actually separate from that, but just has a very similar art style, but The Last Night was just announced actually a day or so ago that it still exists and the developers are still working on it, and it will be actually released. I'm not so much into these sort of platformers, especially the pixel art stuff. It's not that type of style that I'm really into. But this particular graphical style and just the gameplay that they were going for looks really transformative. Very cool experience. So while Replaced was something announced during the Microsoft conference that looks really interesting, I'm actually very happy that The Last Night, which is also kind of announced during the Xbox conference, but previously we thought was canceled, is actually going to be coming out at some point, and I expect it might also come out for the PlayStation as well, but I think Replace is actually exclusive to the Xbox. Next up, another surprise announcement. The Outer Worlds is getting a sequel, and it had a hilarious trailer, by the way. I love The Outer Worlds. I thought it was awesome. I liked that it was a more concise RPG, but made by Obsidian, which is kind of funny because Obsidian used to be part of Bethesda. Then they broke off, but now Microsoft owns Bethesda and Obsidian, so they're effectively one group again. But yeah, The Outer Worlds is getting a sequel, and it's exclusive to Xbox. Another big blow, if you ask me, to PlayStation, because that's another game that's like, it was a multi-platform game. It's RPG driven. A lot of people are interested in that, and it's by Obsidian, a really credible developer. So this is exclusive now to Xbox, a sequel to The Outer Worlds. I'm actually very much looking forward to it, and can't wait to play the game. I think it's coming out next year as well. We might have actually got a release date for April, if I'm remembering correctly, although I might be thinking wrong. But still, awesome to see, and I can't wait to actually start playing that game because the first one was awesome. But there's more. This is an hour-and-a-half press conference, and on second thought, you kind of get excited kind of hearing about this stuff, especially the big-budget exclusive games that are coming to Xbox now because they own all these studios. So Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is previously out only right now on PC, is actually getting an Xbox Series X and S version to consoles, we were expecting this at some point, but now it's actually been confirmed. And it's coming out in, what was it, August, I think they said. It was August, or it might have been July. I know it's really, really soon. So, listen, I'm usually not into these flying games at all. I actually played Ace Combat 7 and really enjoyed it, but that was like the first Ace Combat game I played in years. So, you know, typically this isn't a type of style or genre that I really am interested in, but, I mean, listen, the graphics alone for the Microsoft Flight Simulator look incredible, and it's probably going to be fun just to kind of fly around and see stuff. You know, it's probably going to be a very relaxing game. It's not going to be something I play seriously, but it's really just cool to see that on a console, really. And I'm interested to see how it scales down for the Xbox, because it's one of the more difficult games to run on PC. I mean, you really kind of need like a 3090, and even then it kind of struggles at some points. So yeah, we're gonna have to see how that game actually runs and performs. But yeah, it's kind of cool that it's coming to consoles, so that's one I'm gonna be keeping an eye out for. And it looks a lot of fun. And then another kind of surprise reveal. I mean, I think we were all expecting this at some point, just not this soon. Forza Horizon 5. Yeah, typically we would actually be getting a Forza 8 right now, because they usually go Horizon, then your simulator series, then the Horizon series, then the simulator series. You know, usually it's every other game. They kind of switch them off. But apparently Turn 10 Studios is hard at work right now on Forza Motorsport 8. And apparently they're spending a lot of time into it, because it was mentioned that they're working on it, but we haven't been shown anything. So this is going to be pretty cool, but we're actually getting Forza Horizon 5, and it's coming out at the end of the year in November, which again was pretty surprising to me, because it was like, wow, no one was expecting this. Again, I think we all expected us to have a Forza Horizon 5 at some point, just not this soon. So it's taking actually place in Mexico this time. I am very hopeful that they actually make a really good, well, I don't want to say really good Forza Horizon game, but you know, I'm hoping that we actually get real content here. Because Forza Horizon 4 was, in my opinion, the worst in the entire series. You can beat the campaign in 6 hours, it's super short, and then it's all focused on multiplayer. I am hoping that Horizon 5 has a full-fledged campaign like Horizon 3, Horizon 2, and even the first Horizon, where it actually takes you at least 20 hours or so, 15 to 20 hours to get through the campaign. You know, Horizon 4 was like super quick. I beat it in like a weekend. I was like, wait, that's it? And I like was looking up, it's like, oh yeah, you don't really have to compete in anything, and you can beat the game. And it's like, it was a complete almost waste of time. I also didn't care for the setting in Horizon 4. But Mexico looks really cool, because Mexico reminds me of Horizon 3, which was Australia. You have a lot of different variability in terms of the environments. So I'm looking forward to that. That's coming out in the end of the year on November. So something that to look forward to, at least. And of course, exclusive to Xbox, and one of the better racing game franchises out there. In fact, probably the best racing game franchise out there at the moment. So pretty cool to have that coming out sooner rather than later. Alright, so that kind of concludes the game announcements. They also said that they're actually making kind of a funny thing that they kind of talked about later on. So Xbox is embracing the fridge meme, and we're actually getting an Xbox Series X mini fridge. It's actually happening. When they actually show, you know, the trailer for it, it doesn't look like it's super tall, but it's going to be probably like this size, you know, maybe the size of the current Xbox Series X or something like that. But it's going to be an actual mini fridge. This thing will probably be around $200, you know, but you'll be able to house your beverages in there, and it's a funny, you know, kind of meme thing. So but they're actually really doing it, and honestly people are going to buy it just for the lulz. So pretty funny that they're actually embracing that. So anyway, and also they're changing the style of the Xbox Series X physical game cases, which I'm actually very happy about, because, you know, if you know about the current cases right now that are used for the Xbox Series X, it's basically the Xbox One case without the Xbox One. Instead of one, it just says Xbox on the top. So we're actually getting brand new case designs. You know, some people like them, some people don't like them. I'm just happy that it looks different, quite honestly, because I like my cases and stuff that look different with each generation. And, you know, Sony is using the same, even though they have a white PS5 banner, it's still the same blue case as the PS4. I was hoping that they would do like a smoke gray or something like that, or even like a transparent white or something like that for the game cases, but they're not doing that. So, but Microsoft is changing the game cases. So we have pre-orders right now for Microsoft Flight Simulator as well as Forza Horizon 5 that already kind of look how the are styled in the same way the cases are. And then we also have Halo Infinite as well, which is styled in the new case. So that's pretty cool to see. And again, glad they're actually changing the design of that. It's pretty nice to see an update. Alright, so that pretty much does it for the Microsoft and Bethesda Game Conference. Again, I was a little bit pessimistic the first time around. I think it was early and I was still waking up, but second time, kind of looking through all these announcements, there's a lot of stuff in there, and if you don't have an Xbox, you kind of want an Xbox. So to end our sort of E3 showing, we also had the Square Enix press conference, which I did tune in and watch. Now, most of what we saw during Square Enix was rather boring. However, there was actually a few things that I did want to talk about that were actually pretty exciting. So we are getting another Marvel game, but this time Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's made by Eidos Montreal, but it is a single-player, story-driven action game, which is such a contrast from Marvel's Avengers, which was more of a, that type of looter brawler style of game. This time we're getting a full-blown single-player story-driven game from Eidos, which is really exciting. And I gotta say, I looked at the gameplay. It looks okay, kind of looks kind of like Avengers, to be honest, but I'm actually really happy that we're getting a narrative-focused game, and I might actually buy the game just based on that alone. So I don't know how it's going to be. We saw the gameplay. Gameplay looks it looks like Avengers, honestly. It kind of looks like they took that same systems and just kind of built on it. But the fact that it's narrative-focused is what people have been asking for, and who knows? Maybe this will be something as good or as interesting as Spider-Man. And to end the press conference, I also want to talk about a brand new Final Fantasy game, this time called Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins, which is a brand new hack and slash game from Koei Tecmo and Ninja Theory, which is pretty crazy, to think of that combination. So I looked at the gameplay. It looks kind of like a PS3 and 360 era game, which kind of, I like it by default because it's during that era. But the graphics didn't look anything really mind-blowing to me. I don't know. It looks fun. It probably will be fun. And something as a cool spin-off taking place within that universe, it kind of has potential. So I kind of added it to the list. I'm going to be watching that one with a close eye to see sort of how it develops. And that pretty much does it for at least the stuff that I was interested in, my coverage at least for E3 2021. So overall, I think Microsoft really kind of stole the show here. They really made a fantastic showing, and it just painted the Xbox, at least, in a very positive light overall. I mean, actually having release dates for Starfield, which is huge. No, we didn't get an actual gameplay, but at least we have an idea of when it's coming. And the fact that it's exclusive is a huge blow, and then all those other games are exclusive, and then it's all being added to Game Pass on top of that. It makes for such a tremendous value. I mean, essentially you can buy an Xbox for $500, pay your yearly subscription of Game Pass, and it's like you never have to buy games again. It's like you're set for like the entire generation, at least in terms of Xbox games goes. And a lot of these games have actually made their way to Game Pass already. They just added the entire Yakuza lineup of games, including the newly released Yakuza 7 to Game Pass. That game's not even a year old, and it's already on Game Pass, and that's a third-party, multi-platform game. It just came out actually a few months ago for PS5. So it's quite a showing, I gotta say, and overall there were some few surprises in there. I think this E3 was pretty decent. It wasn't one of the more mind-blowing ones, I would say. It was an overall decent showing from all companies. We got some cool announcements here and there, and a lot of stuff. It looks like 2022 is going to be the big year, right? 2022 is going to be the year to look out for. I think a lot of these games that were originally supposed to come out this year got delayed and stuff and pushed back. So we're finally starting to see those come to fruition. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on E3 2021. Again, if there's something I didn't mention in this video that you want to know my thoughts on, feel free to put it in the comments, and happy to go from there. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and thank you so much for watching.